Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode with us here as we march along through October. This week's just going to be a quick little update, season update podcast with Dallas and I. Haven't had Dallas on the podcast since back in the summer, so obviously being one of my hunting buddies, wanted to get him on and chat a little bit about a little bit of stuff. So Dallas and I will be diving into kind of how the season's going. He's gone mobile this year with a tree saddle, so kind of get his input on how all that's been going. We will kind of talk about what we're seeing on the cameras and how the cuddy back system's working for us both at the farm and at camp. So we'll kind of cover some of that. We'll get into, we talk a little bit about what some of the podcasts are that him and I are listening to right now. There's a lot of great content out there, as everybody knows, but there is, I think, some guys doing a great job giving some really good content right now as we're getting into the meat of the season. And instead of me just regurgitating or having some of those same guests on here, I think it's important to give them a plug and tell you where they are and who we're listening to kind of guide us through the season and keep us thinking about what's going on the other side, or what some of the opportunities are that we might be having, or how we could approach certain situations. So all good stuff. That's one of the big reasons why I love podcasts. It just keeps my mind turning and thinking about ways to capitalize and take the data that we're receiving, whether it's from cameras or sign I'm seeing on the ground, things of that nature, and trying to put all that together to get a good buck on the ground. So that's where we're at there. I'm recording this Sunday morning, a little early, but I'm up and I'm getting ready to go out for the morning hunt. So Trigger and I will be hitting the hardwoods and see what we can get going. It's been a little slow, and was optimistic that we would be having a good day on Saturday, but didn't see a whole lot on the cameras again. And then throughout last night, got up this morning and checked the messages from the cameras, and really nothing to get too excited about. So I'm hoping it's got to turn on one of these days. It doesn't seem like the big bucks are really hitting the scrapes and making themselves too visible right now, but we've got to be real close. So fingers crossed today will be the day, and hopefully when you listen to this on Monday, I'll be posting pictures of a dandy buck with one of our hands wrapped around it. So thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate it. I'm going to keep this short, which is not normal for me, but I bet you'll appreciate it. So enjoy the discussion. Have a great week. Good luck, and keep feeding them.
Hello.
Yeah, that's your
Yeah.
name.
Squirrel's got me.
Big Jim.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
That's good that you think of it, because that's what deer hunting typically is cold and fun.
Yesterday morning, I'm glassing up on the pass and I see these deer moving. And I'm like, ooh, there's some deer moving. All of a sudden, I just see this person just head down, just hauling ass, wearing shorts and a t-shirt with a pack on. And I'm like, is that Tard? My dad always talks about floating through the woods like the autumn breeze.
So Robert's
When you're
the ghost, and that's
275
Tard.
pounds, I don't know how you do that, but
The Freightliner. It's just like a creeper. You're just kind of up in the corner watching what's going on down there.
yeah.
He's
He's like,
he's up there slapping it, pissing all over everything.
is it warm yet?
How did you know the name of the actor?
That's I know.
Why did you say his name?
Hervé Villechaize. Remember this?
You know what pert near means.
If you know what pert near means and you live in America, you're a redneck too.
Welcome to the Log Talk Podcast, brought to you by Pert Near Outdoors.
Hello.
Hello? Say something.
Something.
Something. Okay, you sound good.
All right then.
Mike's hot. Hello, Dallas.
Hi, Billy.
It's 10/23. That means October 23rd. Tomorrow's the start of your
Pre-rutcation.
pre-rutcation.
Yep.
What are you thinking?
Oh,
Well,
I don't know,
first, how's your season been?
I've only hunted about 5 times or so. It's been a little slow, but we've had some good buck sightings too. So no close encounters, but I haven't been pushing it too much. I've tried to get out on a couple of good weather days. We got out couple of Sundays. We had the east wind there a couple of weeks ago on a Sunday afternoon, and that was one of the times where we saw split brow, our target buck there, just out in the field right before dark. So not a big deal, not a close encounter, but
Yeah.
that's twice that we've seen him out in the field at the end of daylight. So that's encouraging.
I'm thinking your watch might be giving us. You hear that feedback? No, maybe it's just me. If you don't hear it, then ignore it. But yeah, so it was encouraging to see him in the daylight, and then it was encouraging to see the pictures that weren't in daylight. So you're trying to put that all together, but then
we're getting pictures of him at 2-3 in the morning on a fairly regular basis out in the fields. And if you listen to anybody and if you think about it, I mean, it makes sense. Like if you're seeing your bucks out in the middle of the field at 2 in the morning, a lot of people will tell you, oh, they're probably bedding 2-3 miles away. Well, or they might have just been feeding 20 yards from that camera all night. You never saw them.
Right.
So sure enough, twice we've gone out to target that deer because we've had pictures of him in the middle of the night. So we at least knew that there was a good chance that he was in the area. And sure enough, he pops out on a field edge a half hour before sundown. So there's a lesson right there of don't read. Use your cameras as a tool, but don't take that. It's not gospel. Don't base all your decisions on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's still more, even with the cell cams and as many as we have out there, it's just one tool in your toolbox. You can't rely on that information as everything.
No. And I think we were chatting before you came over here tonight. We've been using these cameras since April and getting pictures sent to us. You've upped the interval. Now we're getting them every hour. If there's pictures, we're getting pictures. But we were doing like
2 hours before.
Every 2 hours. So, I mean, since April, we've been getting pictures sent to us. So, like, the immediate gratification where if you don't see a deer for 24 hours, you're like, oh, my God, is he gone? Is he dead? What's going on? Because you're just like, we're just seeing everything happening so live action.
Yeah.
And that's what's been, I think I said it last week or on Breedinum Radio with Russ, like, it's been super interesting to watch because, and you made this comment, and I love it, that the cameras haven't so much told us when to hunt, they've told us when not to hunt.
Yeah.
Because the three of us especially, we all have so much going on with the kids and family and work. So it's like you can't be out there as much as we used to.
Right.
So now we're using those cameras, and it's telling us when it's not happening.
Yeah.
It's been accurate.
Yeah. And when you're not getting pictures for, we'll have 2-3 days in a row where we'll just get sporadic pictures where there's not much coming in, and I feel like a teenager with an Instagram account sometimes staring at my phone being like, well, how come nobody's liking my post,
Just refreshing. It's like the email's got to be stuck somewhere.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Should I email Cuddy back and ask him if there's a problem?
She must be with another man. I don't know. That's all I can figure.
But as far as the early season, I've never been too into the early season hunting, and not because I don't think it's productive, but it's just such a long season. I mean, we have the way our season works out this year, we have 7 weekends to bow hunt. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And then you add in, your time off or just the days that you're able to get out a little bit around your work schedule. It's a lot of time to hunt. I mean, you can only push it so much, and I'm looking at next week, and I'm looking forward to it, but at the same time I'm wondering how it's going to go because I'm just I have a love-hate relationship with bow hunting. I really do. I mean, it's just it requires so much time and effort to be good at it, to have success. I mean, and you never know. You can go out one time and have it happen for you, but I'm not going to be able to sit 9 days in a row from sunup to sundown. It's just I don't have it in me, and even if I did, I still have a life and a family. Even though I'm off of work next week, there's still other
stuff
things going on.
Yeah.
And the other thing about it is, like, I can hunt in Pennsylvania and go up and down mountains all day long and get home and just have all kinds of energy still and just be raring to go. But I sit in a tree stand for like 4 hours and I'm exhausted. I get home and all I want to do is go to sleep.
Oh, I know.
It's amazing how it takes it out of you just sitting and waiting. And I don't know if it's probably me more than it must wear on me more than most people. But
Well, you have an awkward schedule anyway. You work nights and
Yeah.
you sleep days. Like,
Yeah.
so then you start trying to hunt and it's got to be more taxing on somebody like you that is on that oddball schedule. But have you ever taken this much time off in archery?
Not during archery season. This actually last year was the first time that I've had a really good time off from work.
Oh, because you've been working up in your seniority and
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Moog changed their vacation policy, so everybody kind of gets more time off now, or kind of a similar amount of time, so we can afford to take a week. And I had the option of that last year, but we moved, so I pretty much used up all my time doing that. When I was younger, I used to take the first week of gun season off every year, but usually that was only 3 vacation days.
because it was Thanksgiving week.
Yeah, it was usually Thanksgiving week. And then with gun hunting, we'd sit like maybe mornings and most afternoons, but we were doing deer drives a lot of the time, bouncing around to different properties, chasing deer around and hunting in groups. And it was just like it was kind of like Pennsylvania, where it was just a big party. We're just having fun,
Yeah.
And you're always on the go somewhere. So this is going to be a different experience for me. Like I said, I know I need to put my time in, but I don't want to push it to the point where it just wears me out either. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking maybe I should have taken like just some long weekends, which is what I usually do. Problem is if you pre-plan those long weekends and the weather isn't right or something else is going on, it's like today. If I had today off, it was 75 degrees out. I mean, I had the day off, I would have been out there, but when I get in a tree stand,
It was 82 degrees today.
Was it? Okay, I wasn't outside until
freaking
tonight.
hot.
Yeah.
Incredibly hot. Oh, it was.
So I would not have been pleased with having a vacation day today. So
No, it was a nice day to go check cameras and move stands or do something like that. But I mean, I think we got like one picture this morning at like 7:25. It's the only picture we got.
I think we had a little buck in the daylight today too.
I don't know. That was when I was talking in the back food plot.
Okay.
But yeah, it's and I think it looks like we've got a decent. I mean, Sarah was just picking on me. We're talking, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, Sarah, this weather. I'm like, this is gonna be this weekend through Halloween. Like, I'm just looking at the long term, and I have the 3-day weekend next weekend, and I'm looking forward to that. And it just looks like a great the Friday, Saturday, Sunday next weekend look good. So I was excited about that. And she's like, stop. She's like, every time, I've been listening to this every year since I've been married. And every time you're excited about the weather or it's going to be a good weekend, you don't shoot anything. She's like, the times when you kill stuff is when you're like, oh, I'm in a rush. I got 2 hours. And like, I run out and something happens.
Right.
Like, that's when it happens. Like, when you're.
I agree. I know it. It seems like the same thing for me too.
Yeah. But I do think this weekend and this week is going to be money. Like, I think you got a good week coming up because we've had warm weather. We're going to be consistently cool for the next 7 days.
We hit it right. I mean, no matter what happens, at least we're not going to probably look back and say, well, that weather sucked or whatever. So, and taking the last week of October off is something been wanting to do the last few years because I usually focus most of my bow hunting time in November, and I feel like I'm missing a lot of the good action. Both from the sign I see, I go out in November 10th and you see all these scrapes and you can see that they haven't been worked in weeks, for the most part, except for a couple of them. And it's like, man, I'd like to be out there when all this sign is getting laid down and refreshed. So,
yeah.
And Brian and Dad usually hunting at that time and having a lot of sightings. And I'm usually like saving my time up saying, okay, I'm going to just go for November. And I like to hunt with a crossbow too. So,
yeah,
you can't do that this year till November 7th, I think.
Is it the 7th? I was talking about that with Russ.
Yeah, it's 14 days. So you just,
so it's a 2 week
it starts on a Saturday and it goes through a Sunday or through a Friday. I mean,
yeah.
So it's 14 days no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be an interesting dynamic too, with having the cameras set up the way we do, because you guys should know throughout the entire week what's going on and who's in what general area. If they're using the scrapes like they should be, we've got most of the cameras on scrapes.
Yeah, even some of them are on field edge scrapes, but they're pretty much all on scrapes.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. It really is.
Yeah.
What's your? We were chatting a little bit about the Cuddy Link system. What's your you've been kind of running it primarily
Yeah.
from your end. So far, what's your impression of it?
It's definitely an awesome tool as far as the information that it gives you, and then at the same time, it's just like any piece of technology or any trail camera where it can be equally as frustrating at times. I'm sending back a brand new camera right now, and if they're going to fix it or cover it under warranty, so it's not going to be a big expenditure, but it's the middle of bow season,
Mm-hmm.
and it's getting water in it. The SD card's filling up with water, I
Yeah.
think. So, and I noticed that in one of the other cameras too. So I think there's a problem there.
That's one of the things that we've noticed with them. Just being honest about it, we've had moisture issues. And granted, we've had a lot. A lot of the way that the farm lays, we do have some of those low-lying areas where you get heavy fog. But I almost think that fog's what's causing the issue more than rain, because fog is just like all-consuming.
Yeah.
And it just can get in, and moisture, and you got condensation. So that's my kind of thought, that it seems like that's causing it. But now my mind's just kind of turning. I wonder if it has any issue with like the camera creating condensation, if there's heat being produced from the camera, from the batteries, that maybe could be creating moisture. Because there's a lot of power on those things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You got the D batteries, multiple packs, which the add-on battery packs aren't doing anything. They're just sitting there idle until they're needed. But I wonder if that's causing some internal moisture being created,
I've never noticed any heat coming out of them though.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's the one that I'm sending back has got the flash module, the cover for it, the lens for the flash module has water inside of it, and it never goes away.
Yeah.
I've seen it before when I was moving cameras and stuff, and I just assumed, because usually like it's in the morning after the moisture, usually like summer mornings is when I'm doing that work. But now I've had the thing inside for 2 days and it's still there. It never even left. So it's just the flash. So I don't know how much that's affecting it, but I don't know. It's like I said, it's a trail camera. It's a camera that's outdoors in the bad weather and everything. And
yeah,
I don't know. I think that's what it is. And now I just picked up 2 cameras this week. I bought a Spy Point from Camel Fire.
Oh, did you?
For like $52. I wanted to get it cheap.
Which one is that?
I don't know.
It's not the cell one?
No.
Just a regular.
I got enough cell cams.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, it's just for other properties, I just want a couple of cheap cameras,
Yeah.
And then I was reading on some forum today, I think it was the Hunting Beast forum, somebody was asking what's a good cheap trail camera, and there was like 14 comments, and almost every one of them said buy the $28 Tasco from Walmart. And I'm like, well, screw it, it's $28. I'm going to Walmart after work this morning and buying a Tasco. So I did, and I got that all loaded up in the truck and ready to go. I mean,
Nice.
if it's junk, I'll throw in the garbage. It's $28,
Yeah. It's interesting because
you've had luck with some cheap cameras.
I have, but I've ruined them all by putting the wrong software updates on them, and now I can't. Now they're fucking garbage.
Really, you were never able to recover that?
I don't think so. I'm sure I could. Again, I could spend the time and try to figure it out. But yeah, I've got a box of cameras down there that I loaded the wrong. I went on. They're all stealth cams that I bought from Camel Fire that were refurbs. I think I got them for like $40-something a piece. And I got a couple years out of them, and they were getting me pictures. They're not great quality pictures, but it's just giving me a picture to say, hey, there was a deer here at this time. Yeah. And you could see if it was a good buck, you could tell. But
I seen a lot of the pictures from them, and I thought they were doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, they weren't terrible. So, but it goes back to it. It's like whether it's you have 10 cuttybacks or you have, 10 stealth cams, or you have 3. I have 3 Spy Points right now. I'm running 3 mobile Spy Points, and I have an issue with one of them. It's like freaking burns through batteries faster than the other 2. I've had them up for a while. So it's like, no matter what it is, you're gonna have. If you have multiple of something, you're gonna have issues. If you have multiple vehicles, you're gonna have issues with one of them more than the other. So this is our first experience, directly dealing with customer service with Cuddyback. So far it seems like it's been so good, and interacting with with the guys there prior to needing any actual.
Both times that I've emailed customer support, one was when I first got the initial cameras and I was just doing something wrong. I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And then this issue that I had here, they responded immediately. And I also had a little email chain going with Dan Schultz there a couple weeks ago, who we had on the podcast. So we know him personally. And
Yeah.
he was, responded quickly and gave us some advice and whatnot. And I know he mentioned this before, but you can see it now that it's deer season, everybody all of a sudden's running all sorts of cuttybacks, and they're flooding the Facebook page and the customer support with support questions.
Oh, it's got to be crazy.
Not only is there more requests coming in, but these guys live in Wisconsin and they're bow hunters, and they're all trying to they're all trying to be out there hunting. So I know that their workload and their stress has got to be
right.
I'm sure it's not an easy time of year for them, so I try to be mindful of that. But if I have a camera that's not working, I want it fixed.
You want to fix it.
And again, they immediately responded, gave me an RMA number, and said send it back, and we'll have it back to you within 10 days. And as long as that holds true, you can't complain, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll see. Stay tuned, I guess.
Yeah. No, I've been pleased.
And you got them at camp now,
our
too.
setup at camp, so far so good with that. I think the spots I set them up like the first week of September, and the spots I put them weren't, like 4 of the cameras are really in, three of the 6 cameras are in good spots. The others I just put them in bad spots, but I was trying to figure out what I could get for range out of them. We don't have the actual cell phone one, but we have the home camera in the yard of the cabin, and then we have the 6 cameras spread out. I was amazed how much range I got out of the 6. We got all the way up on top of the hill, and in talking with Dad, and now we're kind of honing in because Frankenbeans is back.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's like exciting.
That deer is unbelievable, isn't he? This year he's a freaking giant. So
he was last year. He
was big last year, but now he's like, oh, that's cold. We've been, since we got the pictures of him on Monday, we're all starting to, mainly Dad, myself, Jimmy, and Adam. We're the 4 that are primarily going to be hunting up there this year. Joel's battling some health issues, so he probably won't be up. Cousin Dave is living in Boston now. My cousin Joe, he just joined the Navy. Mm-hmm. So, we're down to a kind of a more skeleton crew, and Uncle Mike, but Uncle Mike is like he has a flip phone. He checks his trail cameras on. He's so funny.
He's as close to being off the grid as possible, right?
I love him for it, but I hate him for it because he would be money and gold.
And he doesn't like podcasts.
He thinks that what we're doing is stupid, wasted time, doesn't understand it. But I know he'd love it, Yeah. But anyway, Uncle Mike checks he won't check a camera for like a year. Mm-hmm. So him and Dad was up there with him this past weekend, and Dad's like, we had a memory card that had like 4,000 pictures on it. And Mike's like, they're looking through them and there's just bucks. Like he's got this camera back in the valley, this awesome spot, and just loaded with bucks. Incredible stuff. Uncle Mike's like, all right, yeah, just delete it all. Dad's like, you don't want to save any of these pictures? No, I've seen what I need to know. I know there's deer back there. I'm like, freaking awesome. So he deleted all these pictures. But so where I'm going with that is he doesn't care about, he's in on this whole camera thing with us, but he doesn't really care about it.
Yeah.
So between myself, Jimmy, and Dad, and Adam, we have an additional like 5 or 6 cell cams. So we're going to probably use the cell cams, and we're going to reposition some of the cutty links based on areas where we've seen him in the past 2 years to try to get some sort of a pattern, and probably have the spy point cell cams on scrapes. And so we're getting that immediate intel of who's on the property and who's checking scrapes, and then have the cutty links up in some of the bedding areas and in the areas that we do not ever want to go into throughout the season. So
because you have to pull the memory card on the home to get the cutty link.
Yeah, images. So the cutty link's right at the cabin. So, we're not going to know unless we check the card what's going on. But if we're at camp as soon as we get there, we'll check the card, and then
Yeah.
we'll check it before we go out in the evening, and before we go out in the morning, we'll check it to see what's happening.
Make sure you look closely at your reports every time you pull that too, because
make
it's
sure
more
the cameras
important for
are-
you. Make sure that you got the right number of cameras. That first column on the left, it lists how many cameras there are. So
Yeah.
you need to make sure that number's right. And then the battery column, make sure they're okay. And then there's one thing that I just figured out what it was, the links column.
Yeah, what does that mean?
I kind of thought that was how many links they went back and forth during the day, how many times they linked together, but it's always 1 or 2 or maybe 3.
Yeah.
I just found out recently that I think what that is if you have a camera that's farther away and it has the daisy chain through to get back to home, it tells you how many cameras it's using to get back to the home.
Oh, okay.
And you'll see that usually that farthest away camera, a lot of times it has a really good signal, like a 50 or whatever. And so you know that's a signal reading to one of the other cameras.
Right.
So you kind of know that already, but if it tells you 2 links, that means it's going through
2
I
cameras.
think it means it's going through one remote and then to home.
Yeah.
Because one link would be just from a remote camera right to the home. So that we had that one that we called the southeast corner,
Yeah.
which is the camera that went bad.
Oh, at
But
3,
we had
right?
said 3, so
Yeah.
it was going through 2 different remote cameras to get back home.
Yeah. And so while I think Dan was explaining it to us, while the pictures are being transferred, the cameras can't take a picture.
I think it's just on your home camera.
Okay.
When it's receiving, well, it's probably on all of them, but you have to figure your home is
Your home's getting the most
right,
data.
because it's receiving inputs from 5 or 6 different cameras
Yeah.
in your case, as opposed to just one camera sending. But yeah, he said make sure your home camera is on a place like a trail or something where you're going to get 1 picture or 2 pictures, whatever.
Yeah.
As opposed to being like in front of a freaking corn pile or something where there's just like thousands of pictures, because it's not going to be able to do everything that it needs to do.
Right. Yeah. So what else is going on? We've covered trail cameras. We've covered the fact that you're going to shoot split brow this week. You or Trigger. Hopefully.
I think our goal with him is that, and I think realistic goal is that one of us is going to have a close encounter with him sometime during the archery season.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a realistic goal to have, and if you can make that happen, then hopefully you can close
Capitalize.
the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think you can ask for much more than that.
No.
So, but I will say what's interesting about this is it's the first time that I've ever really hunted a deer. And I'm not saying I won't shoot any other deer. I'm not stupid enough to let another mature buck pass me,
Yeah.
right? Or I'm not disciplined enough, or whatever way you want to look at it. But first of all, this deer is not otherworldly to the point where
Yeah.
we're not talking about a 180-inch deer here or anything. It's just
He's a 140-inch buck.
he's a 5-year-old buck, and I don't think I've ever shot a 5-year-old buck. So that alone makes him pretty special. But because of the cell cams, it allows me to feel like I'm hunting a deer. We are targeting that deer, and I'm setting up every hunt. I'm setting up on that property at least. I'm thinking, how can I kill split brow? Again, that doesn't mean that's the only thing I'll shoot, or that the season will be a failure if I don't get them or anything like that. It's not like that, but if you have intel on that deer from cell cams, then why not try to use that to your advantage to the most? So in the past, we've always had pictures of target deer and big deer and deer bigger than this one,
Yeah.
in some cases. And in a lot of times we've killed them, and I've killed some of those deer, but it was always like, ooh, look at that one. That's the best deer on the property. That's the one I hope I can kill this year. But we weren't really using trail cameras because you're going 2-3 weeks later and pulling the card and going, oh, look at all that stuff that I missed, and look at all these great pictures of this deer that I had, and oh, there he is. And by the way, 2 years ago, we've just found out recently the reason we know this deer is 5 is because you and Brian had a bunch of pictures of him 2 years ago as a 3-year-old, and he was just like a 110-inch 3-year-old that was, on food plots during daylight.
Yeah.
All through November and December. So he was a very killable deer as a 3-year-old, and we didn't even notice him because he was just a run-of-the-mill,
average. Yeah.
not even an average 3-year-old. He was a small deer.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah.
But you can see it in the pictures that he's definitely at least 3 because he had a big old body on him.
Yeah.
And so now he blew up like he added like 20-some or 30 inches as from 3 to 4. And now he didn't really add much size as a 5-year-old, so that's why I can feel pretty confident that he's a fully mature buck.
Yeah.
And everything like that. But anyways, in the past,
it's because our food plots are shit. That's what the problem is.
If we have one problem, that is not it.
Yeah.
There is plenty of food.
Yeah.
And there always has been. But there's just food everywhere.
Yeah.
As always.
Now, I was looking today. What's interesting is some of the only corn that's standing relatively around our immediate area. There's some further down bare, but there's no corn other than the stuff that's right immediately on our property.
And across Folsomdale.
Folsomdale. But there was a pretty heavy trail going across from north and south across Bear. Pretty heavy trail. And I would have to imagine they're hitting the corn right now, but I don't know. I know, but because we haven't.
It's a big block of corn.
It's a big block of corn. But it's been interesting that the trail cameras that are on the food have really slowed down over the last week. And is that because of the transition, from getting ready for the rut and it getting into that next phase? Is it a transition of the food, the beans changing? It could be a combination of everything. But, I mean, they were pounding the hell out of the beans over the last 3 weeks. And
they're still eating them, but it's backed off.
Yeah. Those deer you saw the other night, were they hitting the beans?
Yeah. I saw 3 deer in the beans and 1 in the corn.
Okay. Where was the one in the corn?
Well, she came out. I don't know where she came from. I just looked over my shoulder and saw her standing 20 yards from the corn or 10 yards from the corn, and then she moved into it. So I'm assuming she came out of the
hardwoods?
Out of the hardwoods or somewhere in the, I'm assuming she wasn't bedded in the corn, or else I wouldn't have probably seen her outside of it.
Right.
She worked her way in. 1 single adult doe. And the 2 other doe that I saw didn't seem to have fawns with them either, but I was looking right up on the horizon, so I don't know. They could have just been on the other side.
But Brian was saying when he sat in the food plot there, he probably told you this too. He saw like 5 or 6 he felt were mature does that one night. Would have been that Sunday, the second Sunday of season, when me, you, and him all set up.
It seems too early for him to get separated.
Yeah, but he was like, dude, there. And looking back at the cameras, there was several nights when you had that primetime mode on, and we were getting pictures of of one deer here, but you could see all the way down the plot, and there was like 3 or 4 deer out feeding in the food plot. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going on with that. I mean, I would think that those does had fawns, but
most of the does that we're getting regular pictures of have fawns with them.
Right.
So, it could be that they just lost their fawns too.
Yeah.
They might have got killed in the spring.
Maybe.
There's got to be some level of that going on.
Yeah, I would think there's some depredation going on.
I think we have a high fawn survival rate. I would say higher than average, even for this area, because we have good food, good cover. We don't really have bear for the most part. We might have one rogue bear coming through.
Roaming around.
We have coyotes, but at one time we had a coyote problem, but I don't think we have that anymore. I mean, there's like a couple of them and one got killed. You know, the guy that bought Dad's house killed a coyote this summer in his backyard.
No, no kidding.
Yeah, so it was probably one of those 2 that we had been getting regular pictures of, and now I haven't seen a picture of a coyote in a long time.
No.
So I don't know if they're both dead or if one moved on or what. So
nice.
So
I've yet to meet that guy. Have you met him?
No, Dad's talked to him.
I need to stop. It's like every time I see him out, he's busy, or I'm busy trying to get somewhere. So you got to meet him.
So yeah, I think generally, because historically I don't remember. You don't see a whole lot of mature does without fawns, unless it's the rut, which is normal because they kick those fawns out and they want to be by themselves. But it does seem like too early. Even now, it seems like it'd be a little too early for that. But.
Yeah, it does. I don't know. I can tell you what I'm upset about. I'm upset we weren't invited on the Public Land Challenge. Fucking offended, quite honestly. I was sitting here this morning watching it on TV, and I'm like, you know what? I thought we were
I thought we made it. But, they're right in our backyard, and we didn't even get no DM, nothing.
Turns out we could have gone. I guess apparently Rob was invited on the Public Land Challenge, and technically I was invited to hunt with him.
Or he invited himself?
So maybe through
Did he just randomly stumble upon him?
Yeah, so he planned this hunt. Rob and CJ, it's two guys that work at Moog with me. Rob works third shift with me. And so
CJ's got the long hair.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one other guy that I don't know, Nick, I think his name is. Anyways, they hunted Ohio last year. Rob and CJ did, so they're interested in doing some out of state bow hunting. And I told them to consider Pennsylvania this year, and I sort of talked to them a little bit about an area, a region where maybe they would be interested in hunting because it's just a lot closer. And and I showed them some reasons why it'd be a good place to hunt. Anyways, I don't want to get too deep into it because nobody really wants to know where they're hunting.
Right.
Public Land Challenge, that's a big thing for them, is not just that, but wherever they're hunting, the hunting public guys, they want to show you that it's good to hunt Pennsylvania and Ohio and all these other places, a lot of the southern states they hunt and stuff, but they don't want you to know exactly where they're hunting because they don't want to get spots to get blown up, but they also don't want a bunch of fans come, because literally that's what'll happen. Guys will drive up and be like waiting on the road for Zach and Aaron to come walking out of the woods and be like, "Oh, we love you."
Do you notice that most of them are driving rental vehicles on this trip?
Dan was. I saw that.
Oh, I didn't know if that truck Zach had is his truck or not.
He's got a new Ford pickup.
Okay.
It's not new, I don't think, but he's got a pickup now. He just
I was watching the video this morning, and somebody comes driving by, and he's like hiding behind the vehicle, because I get it. It's, I mean, when I go down to Strikersville Hardware, everybody's like, "Oh my God, are you pretty?" No, nobody's ever.
If you were actually famous, you wouldn't have all those stickers on the back of your truck driving around, because otherwise
it doesn't do me any good. I haven't gotten a single follow or a like because of my freaking stupid redneck stickers on my truck.
So, anyways, I had heard back in the summer. I don't know if they really announced it, but there was talk that they were going to do Pennsylvania for the Public Land Challenge. But the last 2 years, last year was Michigan and the year before was Minnesota, and they did those at the season opener. So October 1st, I think, is Michigan's opener, like ours.
Yeah.
So, but then the year before, I think, they were hunting in September in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like they wanted to get that out of the way early season so that they could kind of all focus on their own things. And if anybody who's not familiar with what we're talking about, first of all, if you're not following the hunting public, you're missing out big time, and the hunting beast for that matter, and Whitetail Habitat Solutions, Jeff Sturgis. I mean, all these guys are really good resources to watch on YouTube. You can watch a lot of their stuff for free. It's entertaining, but it's educational too. So anyways, the Public Land Challenge is just a wild. All these guys get together and camp together and just go their separate ways and hunt. And they call it a challenge, but it's not like a competition or anything. It's just like, hey,
just having fun. Yeah,
just get out here and do this stuff, and it's really entertaining. But anyways, back to the story was. I was surprised. I kept looking. I wonder when they're gonna do that, or I didn't know if it got canceled or something because they never talked about it. So last week at work, I told Rob, I'm like, do you think there's a chance that they're going to be doing Public Land Challenge next week when you're in Pennsylvania? Because I'm like, I told him, I said, if they're doing it, there's a decent chance that they're going to be right where you are.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the first couple days down there, he sends me a picture. They left. He's like, dude, we just saw Joe Rentmeester from the Hunting Beast.
Did they actually see him, or?
Well, yeah, that's how they. He doesn't have I don't think he has a car that you would recognize, other than
just a regular
if
car.
you watch the first video, he crashed
he hit
into
a
a deer
buck,
in Wisconsin, a half hour from his house, and then drove it all the way to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So
he's like, yeah, I got the first buck of the year, 140-inch 8-point.
Yeah. So they left him a little note on his windshield, and just like, hey, we're hunting from New York, and good luck and stuff. And the Hunting Beast was nice enough to take a picture of it and post it on their Facebook page or their website. So, they ended up right in the middle of a bunch of hunting celebrities, and so that had to be cool.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I'm sure if they announced where they were all the time, they would blow up these spots, and people would just be like lined up to want to get pictures and talk to them and hunt with them and stuff like that, and they would just ruin everything. So they have to be.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to give away the location either, but it's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's cool to watch from our perspective because we do hunt PA, so it's fun to see. Like I was really like a lot of times I watch their videos and I'm just kind of like sort of watching, but when I know like when Zach came to New York last year, I was like zoned in. I'm like, okay, what's he thinking? What's he doing? How's he approaching this? Same thing with this, especially like Dan Infalt's talking about like how he's going to approach this area. He's like figuring out. He does a lot of scouting before he goes in, which is that's what I like about watching this Public Land Challenge because everybody has their own style about how they're going to approach it. So like he's doing his research and he's like scouting and trying to figure out and talking about how the wind is up and down and thermals and all this. So it's just like fascinating to listen to because I'm sure you're the same way. I'm sitting there thinking about not only there, but I know that territory is very similar to some of the stuff that I hunt over in the Finger Lakes. So I'm like thinking about how this relates to my sort of situation.
And that's why people are watching their stuff. It's not because they're just look. There's a place for, Midwest whitetail guys shooting monster bucks on food plots all day long. That stuff's damn entertaining too, and it's not like I can relate to that stuff too because
we have a little bit of that.
We have a we don't have
180 inches
because
but
we don't live in Iowa, but I can relate to that type of thing. But everybody can relate to what these guys are doing, and because they're doing it mostly on public land and DIY stuff, and they're. And they're driving around shit cars and hunting with limited gear and stuff. I mean, can you imagine what the hunting public spends on tags every year and gas driving around? I mean, just to be able to maintain that lifestyle with having they got some sponsors that must help them out a little bit as far as the funding and stuff. But I think they must work in the off season. I mean.
Oh, I bet you at this point, I mean, they've got 250,000 subscribers on, and there's been if you start thinking, they got a lot more advertisements,
right?
So they're making enough money, but I mean, there's nothing easy about the lifestyle that those guys are living right now. I mean, they're wide open.
Right.
It's hunting 365.
Yeah.
And so when you think about it from that perspective, what they're doing and what they're able to accomplish, and it's my favorite channel to watch right now because it's real. Like there's a lot of really good content out there right now, hunting wise, but it's just stuff you can relate to, And what's amazing is that they're getting it done on incredible deer, doing just what you and I can do on a regular over the counter tag. So it's encouraging,
Yeah, and what the big advantage they still have on us is time because that's what they do. So. Like they're putting 2-3 days of scouting into Pennsylvania before they even pick up a bow and go hunting, so.
Must be nice.
Yeah, that's something. Now, if we took a week or 10 days off and committed to one state and went like you would do in Colorado or, or on an elk hunt, that's kind of what they're doing, but they do it all year round.
Yeah.
So they're set up to do it. They're good at, they still have, but there's nothing literally stopping me and you from doing what they're doing.
No,
there's no amount of money that's required to do that or anything like that. So
right.
Dan Infalt gets out of his car the first day at campsite, and he goes, "Pick me up a couple cases of energy drinks." He's carrying 2 cases full of whatever kind of energy drinks he is.
He's the picture of health right there. That guy.
It's as much fun as it looks like they're having. It's like I was saying earlier about my week off coming up. It's not easy to do.
No.
It sounds fun to just hunt all day, every day, but it's hard work. It's physically and mentally grueling.
Yeah.
To do. And that is the thing I appreciate about just being able to go and hunt a couple hours in the afternoon and go home and have dinner with my family and then go to work at night.
Yeah.
And just kind of separate everything, and just kind of have a bit of a routine going. So, that being said, I would still like to be doing what they're doing
Absolutely.
every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. I would love to be wearing their pants right now, but so 2 things I want to chat about with you before we kind of start buttoning her up here is, one, what's your what's your feedback on going with the saddle setup this year? This is your first year running the saddle, and you've been doing kind of a run and gun deal with a lone wolf.
Yeah.
But this is your first year in a saddle, so what's your first impression?
It's pretty much what I thought it was going to be. It's good. It's not great. It's just because it takes a lot of work to set up, to get your sticks and everything up the tree and whatnot. But I'm trying to do it pretty much every hunt so that I'm getting better at it. I have a system. I can cut the time down on it. The saddle is pretty comfortable for me. The only thing I'm working on is trying to get the pressure off of my feet a little better. My feet bother me when I have weight on them for a long time. So I kind of alternate between leaning and sitting, and I'm getting a system down. But, as far as a mobile system, I'm thinking I definitely like the saddle more than the tree stand, because now if I'm trying to do all-day sits, maybe and I still have that option. I can throw my lone wolf tree stand up and do an all-day sit.
Yeah. But
for those 3-hour sits in the afternoon or whatever, the saddle is definitely, I'm happy with it. The biggest thing is not having that extra piece of equipment to carry. And the saddle does take up space. You need to either wear it in or roll it up and stick it in your backpack. And sometimes when I wear it in, it wants to sag.
Yeah. Are you wearing, what do you have do you have pouches on your saddle? Did you buy the pouch?
Yeah, well, I bought the one pouch originally, the Sis Hauler, I think they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, I bought one and then realized I wanted another one. And so I've got the second one on, and I haven't hunted with it yet. So tomorrow morning, I'll be hunting out of that.
Yeah.
Me and Brian are going in the dark tomorrow to set up. And so he'll have, I don't know if he's going with a saddle or a tree stand, but we're going mobile in the morning.
I was just going to ask you. I think Trigger is, we knew how he was going to handle this transition. He was all excited. I mean, he spent so much time thinking about it, trying to jerry-rig freaking steps and platform and everything. And right off the bat, he's nothing but complaining about how clunky it is and stuff. And I'll tell you, my opinion, it is. When I first started doing the saddle hunting last fall, my first hunt right out the gate was in a saddle. But what I'm finding is that the biggest weakness to my system last year was the pack I was using and how I was getting my stuff to the tree and how I was getting up the tree. So now this year, my big change has been the actual bag on my pack. So I'm running the Kafaru pack, but I put the Striker. Well, this is just just a little pouch there. But right out when you leave, I'll go out with you. I'll show you. But the Striker pack, freaking. Just for my setup, I can't speak for everybody else, but for my setup, it's unbelievable how well it's working, and like everything has its place, and everything's strapped down super tight and quiet. And when I get to the tree, it's just, if I'm in a short, like what night was it? Wednesday I went out and hunted, and it's not that long of a walk. It's maybe a quarter-mile walk. I'm walking out there, and I got my saddle on. I get to the tree. I pop my backpack off, grab the sticks, put the sticks on I got the 3D printed little clip on my saddle, put that on, and I just start climbing the tree with my backpack on. And it's super simple. And I get up to the top of the tree, and I'm able to you hear that? That's not me peeing, folks.
It sure sounds like it.
Yeah, it sure does. That's my water system's going to do a backwash. Does it every 2 days.
Great timing.
Perfect timing, yep. I need to get that insulation to block that out. That just fucking derailed my whole story here. But anyway, it's when I get up to where I'm going to set my platform, I screw a hook in, and I hook my backpack on, and from there I take my platform out, and I put my platform on, and I step up. I put one more hook in. This is on the farm. I've got the straps that I'm using if I'm hunting on public. But then I bring my backpack up. I step up on the platform. I bring my backpack up. Put it on the next one. Put my bow hanger up. I'm ready to go. I've been pulling my bow up. I haven't been putting it on my backpack. But like it's a system. Once you get the system figured out, it's super easy.
I'm doing it the same way. Where I'm where I'm struggling is I pack everything up and I walk to the tree, and of course usually it takes time to find the right tree too, you know, and I move really slowly because you don't want to be just walking in circles and looking for a spot and leaving scent and making noise and stuff. So I kind of methodically move to where I'm going to set up, and then the thing that takes the most time for me is I set my bow down, I take my backpack off, the sticks are strapped to my backpack, the platform is inside of the pack, my binoculars are a lot of times inside the pack and stuff, so like I have to do like a whole pack dump in order to get ready to get up the tree, and then I have to take my sticks and clip them onto my side, and then I take my my tethered Predator platform and I clip that on the back of my saddle, so I hang the 2 sticks, and then I have 2 sticks and a platform hanging off of my saddle, and then I put my lineman's rope around the tree, and then I ascend, and once I start going up the tree, I'm golden. I've got that system down. What I do need is a bigger, better pack like you got.
Yeah.
I have just a small backpack, an internal frame. It's nice for, I like it for doing, you know, just like a real quick, like if you're just going to go up in a pre-hung set, it's
perfect.
It's more than you need for that. Or if you're just out for a still hunt with a rifle, it's more than you need for that, right? You still have room in there to pack a deer out and everything, and believe me, that thing has packed out a lot of deer, but it's definitely not enough to do what I'm doing right now. But I'm not ready to. I've spent enough money this year, so it's going to get me through this year one way or another.
Yeah.
So,
but it's a system, and I think that's Brian's problem.
Yeah.
Brian gets to the tree, and he's just got. It's just, you know, his pack. It's not super modular, you know, and that's the same thing. Jimmy's running the same backpack, the Badlands pack, and it's a nice backpack. But when it comes to like the modularity of things and where do you put stuff and how do you get it off, like my pack on the outside has the molly webbing, and I have another one of those hooks for the sticks that you can put the Versa button in from Genesis. I've got one of those hooks on the outside, so my sticks are just hanging on the outside of my pack with a strap over them. And you can't do that on just like a pack like a Badlands. They just don't have the modularity where you can run extra straps in across everything to tighten it down. So one of these days, Trigger will listen to me. I've been telling him about this stuff and showing him it, but he's always got to buy something different than me. So
right.
He's just hard-headed.
The sticks are an issue because you stack them together. Like now I still got my Lone Wolves, and I'll probably go back to them at some point because they're 32 inches with 3 steps on them, so I can get a lot higher in one tree, especially if I add an 8er to the bottom one. But then I got the 20-inch Hawk Heliums, and those are nice sticks, but really I probably should get a 5th one because I can't get up. Like, I feel like I'm getting up 15, 16 feet, but I don't know if that's true or not because right now with all the cover on the trees, I'm getting up high enough. I don't really have a problem with it, but when another week or two, when all the leaves come off, I feel like I'm going to need to get up another 4 to 6 feet. So I should have either another stick or something. I played around a little bit this summer with the 1-stick climbing method, but I basically just did it once at Jim Vogel's camp on a hangover with a broken rib. And I was able to get up and down the tree with it, but it was a struggle.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's really going to... It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And then if you get up there and you forgot something or you drop something or, God forbid, you got to take a shit.
Yeah, you got to get all the way down.
Good luck getting down with all,
Yeah.
Figuring out all that stuff because I got up in the climber one time and had to take a shit, and it was not good climbing down.
Is that a 20-foot shit?
No, I got down.
Did you?
I couldn't figure out how to... My climber's all enclosed with a bar around it and everything. I couldn't figure out a safe way to drop one.
Just got to hang it. Just...
The only alternative to what I did was friggin' dropping it right in the drawers and then going home. I was in Pennsylvania, and I was a mile from my truck, and I was not going home.
No,
so.
that's a long poopy pants ride home.
That was a bad morning.
Yeah, we've all had them in different ways. So yeah, the moral of the story with I knew you'd love the saddle hunting, just the ability to just go anywhere and set up. But it comes down to just doing it over and over again practice and just getting comfortable with the process of going up and down the tree. That's the biggest challenge. So anybody that's just getting started with it, you know, we are 23 days into deer season right now, but not everybody's been out a ton. So it's like you just gotta don't get frustrated if you go out. It's gonna be clunky as shit the first few times you go up the tree.
Yeah.
But just keep practicing and keep trying to hone your process, and it'll get better.
Yeah, and don't bother trying to buy a setup during the middle of the season.
It's not worth it. Well, it could be worth it, but
right.
It's just adding one more thing that you got to try to figure out in the middle of the season.
And there's always, you have to make your own adaptations to what you buy. So they're going to sell you, whoever you buy whatever setup from, they're going to get some sort of a modular system, or you can pick and choose and piecemeal from different manufacturers. But even Tethered will tell you that there's a bunch of DIY stuff that you can do.
Oh yeah.
To either to save money or just to do it easier than what they're selling on their website. So like one of the big things I've done is like before I knew about the 3D printed things to hang your sticks, all I did was take a piece of 14 gauge black stranded wire and a 12 gauge crimp on 1/4 inch wire lug, ring lug.
Yeah.
And I crimped both ends of that 14 gauge wire in there to make a loop about 3-4 inches long, and then used the existing hardware on my sticks and bolted that onto my sticks. And then so you can get that stuff for pennies from the hardware store.
Yeah.
And then I bought a couple of 4-packs of carabiners from Amazon that are aluminum, so they only weigh like 4 of them together don't weigh much more than an ounce, I think.
Yeah.
They got a really light stainless steel closure, and they're rated for like the same amount of weight as any carabiner, but I wouldn't trust my life with them because they could bend out. But all I'm using them is to hang all my stuff from. So I hang my sticks, one stick on each side of my hip, and my platform and my back. So that's 3 of them to go up the tree. And then I have another one already clipped to my backpack hook. So when I get up there, I throw the strap around. Even on private land, I'm using that strap with all the loops on it that I bought from Tethered.
Yep.
So I'm clipping my backpack onto there, and then you can hang a bow hanger from that thing too, which I prefer a screw-in bow hanger that folds out so that you can get your bow farther away from the tree on private land where you can screw in. But if not, I've already used just put a hook on that. In 3D Genesis 3D also sells a bow hanger that you can put.
I've got one of
that's
those,
made for that strap. Do you have the Tethered strap?
Oh no, I don't have that one. That one looks pretty cool.
It's pretty nice. Yeah. So I have a good system, but the point being that you have to figure out, like, when you buy a 4 or 5-pack of sticks, they're probably not going to give you a way to carry those things up in the tree and be able to strap them on. Even with the Hawk Heliums are nice because they have those cups that they clip together, but there's a problem with those too. They hold together nice, but when you pop them apart, I can deal with the suction cup popping, but there's metal clanging.
Right.
If you're not an expert at pulling those things apart, they clang together.
Yeah.
It's not good. So
no.
There's a problem with every one of these setups, including your pre-hung set that's been hanging there for a week or a month or 20 years that you're climbing up into. That's a problem too, because those deer have experienced you in that pre-hung set, blind or tree stand or whatever it is. Like, there's always a fallback, and you need to have a system for whatever you're doing.
Yep, for sure. So the last thing I wanted to leave the listeners with today was I've been battling with this because there's been so many good – I listen to a ton of hunting podcasts, and there's been so many good discussions and guests, and you and I were talking about this before we hit record. There's a lot of guys out there that – oh, that's cold. There's a lot of guys out there that that know what the hell they're talking about, and there's a lot of great content out there.
And then there's me and you.
And then there's me and you that just are rambling and have water filtration systems flushing in the background. But I feel like at a point, like, it's not worth it for me to regurgitate or try to get the same people on here to repeat the same stuff that I'm hearing in other places
Yeah.
that I value. You know, to me, it's like I hear what you're doing and I want to help you get your word out because there's no sense in me repeating the same thing you did. So what I wanted to kind of pick your brain was, and I'll share a couple of mine, but what are some of the, I'm not saying like exact episodes, but what are some of the podcasts that you're, especially right now, like in season, that you're definitely tuned into for information? Is there certain guests that you're looking out for? Like, what are you paying attention to right now, podcast wise?
Oh, I can probably.
Your phone's right here.
Okay, probably read you.
Yeah, you should. Should do that.
I could tell you right off the bat, like, the first thing that got me listening to pretty much any kind of podcast at all, in the hunt, at least in the hunting space, was Wired to Hunt. Mark Kenyon, he's been on for a long time. He's had like almost 400 episodes, and he's had every guest you could ever want to listen to.
Yeah.
And that's how I started to. I listened to him, and I started to follow all his guests and expand out. But definitely the hunting beast and the hunting public are probably. I can't think of any better resources than listening to either of those. The hunting beast is Dan Infalt, and he's kind of. He's at least publicly the kind of the godfather of all this kind of stuff that we're talking about, this mobile hunting and the kind of the strategies that we follow. He's kind of the one that authored all this sort of hunt the bedding and things like that.
So basically anything that Dan Infalt does, any podcast he's on, I would pay attention to that.
Here's one, Hunt for Real, Tony Peterson.
Yeah, Tony Peterson does a nice podcast.
He's phenomenal. And also he has a bird dog podcast.
Have you listened to that one?
A little bit. But
I'm not really into bird hunting, so I don't listen too much to that.
I like it, but I just don't have enough time to listen to it. But he talks a ton about public land hunting, and he's super successful. Andy May is a guy who's been on all these podcasts. As far as I know, he doesn't have his own, but he's on Wired to Hunt. He's on Trail Cam Radio is another good one. That's how we found out about Steve Shirk.
Yep.
He's been on Hunt for Real plenty. He's a good friend.
He's been on with Jesse Coots too. Jesse had him on.
Yep.
On the Hunt Different podcast. Yeah. Jesse's slacking and hasn't put out stuff in a while, but he's got priorities, which I respect. But he was on with Jesse, and I enjoyed his conversation because the conversation with Jesse was more, it was a Jesse type conversation, not a Wired to Hunt, which is very prim and proper, and there's no swearing or references to porno sites or anything of that nature.
I can't believe Jesse made it through 1 or 2 episodes on Wired to Hunt.
I know. Well, Jesse told me, he's like, I talked to him back last fall when I first connected with him. He's like, dude, I had no comprehension of how big of a deal Wired to Hunt was, and I'm on there talking like that. Oh God.
Okay, so a couple more are the Deer Hunter podcast, which is out of Michigan, Kevin Vistison.
Yeah. That's become one of my favorite podcasts since Rob turned me on to that. I drunkenly found out about that podcast because I've been following the Deer Hunter podcast on Instagram, but I'd never listened to it. And I had just gotten done recording a podcast, and I had been drinking, and I was sitting down here probably right in the same spot.
If you ain't drinking, you ain't thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And so you don't have Instagram, but when you're on Instagram, you get notifications pop up when somebody goes live, but you also get notifications when somebody is when somebody's like follows you or likes something. So I just had like a short notification that said Deer Hunter podcast started, and I was like, oh, they start. So I clicked on that. I'm like, oh, they start following us? Like, no, they started a live video. So it was one of their live podcasts they did back I don't know. It was back in probably in like April or May. Mm-hmm. It was probably April.
Yeah.
And they had a live podcast. They ended up putting it out. It was Kevin with all of his buddies. I had never experienced any of these guys. Well, I tune in live, and Rob's also tuned in live. And so I just start like messaging, and I'm drunk, and I'm like, oh, I'm drunk. And so they're like reading this on the podcast. And then Rob's messaging on there, so I can see Rob. Rob's like, oh, hey, Billy, you got to connect with Kevin. He seems like a cool guy, or he'd be a cool guy to get on the podcast. So I've been listening to Kevin and the Deer Hunter podcast since then, and I just love everything Kevin's about. He's just like us. Like, he's red-blooded American, hardworking guy, believes in our rights, and so everything that he talks about, from politics to everything, like, I'm right with him. Like, that's a great podcast.
He's right on. I like him, and I've made this comparison for a few years, but Michigan and New York are like the same state.
Yeah.
It's the same politics. It's the same kind of terrain. Like, the southern portion of Michigan and New York is all agriculture with mixed in with, like, hills and some bigger blocks of woods, but a lot of, like, ag and stuff. And then we both have our upper portion, which is giant big woods, low deer density, but it's like where people go to, where men are men.
Right.
So,
and the sheep are scared.
Yeah. So I actually think in the deer hunting density, like, the number of deer hunters, also, like, the size of the states. Like, I mean, they're literally like a half a country away. Like, they're the same state, New York and Michigan. So, and that's where Mark Kenyon's from. That's where
there's a ton.
Kevin Vissison, John Eberhardt. I believe Andy May lives there.
Yep.
I probably should be able to name about 15 more. But Michigan is kind of like the hotbed of where people talk about deer hunting too. So I've always kind of followed. If you listen to people from there, you could draw a lot of parallels to what we do here, what we experience here.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason I found Mark Kenyon so interesting right off the bat, was like, he's talking about the same kind of stuff that we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, he's hunting southern ag land where he lives, and then he's taking his vacations up to his family deer camp in northern Michigan, and Kevin's doing the same thing.
Yep.
Like, it's just. And one more that I was gonna say was, you had Mark Shreen on from Big Woods Bucks podcast, and that is totally different because they're doing the big woods tracking, and your recent episode here with the two guys from the Adirondacks where they said we could come up and hunt with them. I'm like, man, that's
we should do that. Yeah,
it really is. I want to
see how the season goes, and
it's not just this year, but whatever. We need to get some snow and go into some big woods somewhere and go tracking some bucks. It's really what I want to do.
Even like I said, I mean, even if they wanted to come down here and we could do the same style of stuff down here, it doesn't matter. But that's one of the things I'm enjoying about doing the podcast, is just connecting with regular dudes, like just guys like you and I. We're connecting and like trading hunts, quote unquote, like go and hunt with somebody else and see what their area is like. And like that, I very badly want to go to the Adirondacks and have our own kind of like public land challenge. That's kind of what I want to do, because we've connected with a bunch of people across the state. Everybody wants to have that camp experience, and we could very easily do that in the Adirondacks. Go and have an area where we just all go and camp, and we all go and hunt wherever we want to hunt the next day. We could easily do it.
Yeah. I don't want to do it without snow, though. Like, I've hunted
for sure.
the Adirondacks,
I'd want to do it in rifle, as I want to do it.
Rifle or muzzleloader, whatever, but snow.
Yeah.
I've hunted the Adirondacks probably 3 times for deer, and then I went once with you for bear, but we never had good conditions on any of those hunts. It was warm and crunchy, and you couldn't track or still hunt or anything. So I would love to experience that, and I know it's still going to be damn near impossible to do, but I'd love to
Did
take
you
a
say
shot at
damn near or pert near?
Sorry, I always forget to say
I know.
near.
It's funny. I catch myself when I'm listening to people. I'm like, did you – wait. You missed an opportunity. You could have said pert near right there. Yeah.
But it's like you said, there's so many resources out there, and all these people are on YouTube as well. And like you said, we don't necessarily need to recycle all the same information over and over on this platform. You have a good local flavor going, and I think Breedinum Radio has been great because you can just
I appreciate that.
Anybody that wants to get their story out there and just tell about this, it's all people from this region, even if it's some of them might be from PA or from the Adirondacks or whatever, but it all relates because it's all those hunts are accessible for anybody that doesn't know that they can drive an hour and a half across the border to PA and buy a big game hunting license for $101.50 or $101.90 or whatever it is, and go hunting. And they also have a walk-in private program down there.
PA does?
Yeah. There's a lot of properties listed on there, too.
Yeah.
They have millions of acres of public land. I mean, you can just... The same deal like if you're not a bow hunter and you want to hunt with a gun right now, people don't know that you can just drive up to the Adirondacks.
Yeah, gun season opens tomorrow.
It's a bit of a haul, but you already have a license for that.
Right.
You can just drive up there and go hunting.
Right.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. You're not going to sit on the edge of a cornfield up in the northern zone, but you have a rifle in your hands and go hunting and go deer hunting if you want. So
Absolutely.
I think it's good that you're kind of highlighting all those kind of things.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'll tell you, Sarah said this to me, and my wife, she's very smart. She's college educated, and she's very right. I'm sure that if we had a better name for our group, if it wasn't Pert Near Outdoors, I'm sure that we'd get more people paying attention to us. If our podcast was not called Log Talk with Pert Near Outdoors, I'm sure we'd get more attention. But at the end of the day, like, it's slowly growing, and I have to, keep focused on that because it's not growing as fast as I want it to, but it is growing. But it's been so much fun. Like, this Breedinum radio it's a lot of work because you're not just recording those 30-minute stories, but you're trying to communicate, paying attention to who's shooting stuff, trying to communicate with them and line up schedules. There's just a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So it's a ton of work, but it's super fun because I think people like getting their story out there. And I love hearing those stories from my perspective, listening to other people. So it's been a lot of fun. And I say it when I do the intros of the podcast, I say it, but it's like, if you are out there and you want to participate, just reach out. I don't care who you are, where you're from in New York State, what you're doing. If you have a cool experience, you shoot something, you want to share a story, just hit us up. We'll get you on. Yeah. And that's what this is all about. There's only a few of us in New York that are doing podcasts, hunting-wise, that I'm aware of. And I listen to a lot of podcasts. I feel like if there was more out there, I would know about them. There's one down in New York City. The names escape me right now.
And then Todd Waldron.
And
obviously.
then Todd Waldron. New York, what the hell is the bow hunting? What the guy in New York City? You know what I'm talking about? No. But there's a guy in New York City that's got a podcast, which is pretty successful. And then Todd's got his, Todd Waldron, East to West hunting podcast. And Todd's a lot different than me, and in a good way. Todd's very intellectual. His podcasts it's different. I don't know what I am, Dallas. I'm not going to explain myself.
All right. Yeah,
everybody who's listening to this knows how I am.
That's fine.
We like to have fun. We're a little bit, not that Todd doesn't like to have fun, but Todd's a really intelligent guy, and he has some really high value conversations. We can have some of those, but we also want to have fun and just sit down and drink a beer. Right. And
well, that is another thing that you're doing, is you are having those high value, serious conversations about conservation, or with the stuff with your bow shops and stuff like that. The one last week, the venison donation, I thought, that's an excellent thing that people need to know about, and that needs to get more funding.
Yeah.
Let's try to pay attention to that a little bit more. I've never known that I could donate when I bought my license. I don't mind throwing them a couple bucks, no problem.
Yeah.
So
when he said how much money they get out of all the license sales,
ridiculous.
It's Jesus, yeah.
But I'll also say that if you did that all the time, I wouldn't be as entertained as these kind of things, and just telling stories and having fun, and and if you want to crack a couple beers while you're doing it, that's your guests,
for sure.
Have at it.
Yeah.
Take it from me.
I'm drinking. I'm just not drinking Busch. I'm drinking I'm having a.
I think the last time I was on the podcast, I was drinking liquor. I was drinking Captain Morgan, and I almost sailed her right into the freaking rocks, man.
You guys were.
I was off course for a little while there.
Yeah.
Of course, it was like a 4 hour.
It was a 4-hour podcast,
and I was drinking before I got there.
Yeah.
So that I was thinking.
And I was thinking about that before we sat down tonight. I realized, I'm like, why did it go that way? Because there was no agenda. Yeah. That's what we would do if we didn't have headsets on. We would sit there and just bullshit and tell hunting stories and pick on each other for 4+ hours. That's
Right.
what we would do on a Saturday night. Like,
Because-
it's no different.
Because Trigger takes us on half-hour detours is why.
Yeah.
Really.
He's, no, I'll stop talking. And then he starts talking again. Freaking guy. Love him. Love him to death. So, yeah, I think you hit on a bunch of good podcasts. I would just say, I mentioned Todd's. If you're from New York State and you don't know about Todd's podcast, East to West, it's a great one. He's been putting out some really good stuff recently. John Teeter, I really enjoy listening to John, whatever podcast he's been on, and he's really starting to gain some traction. People are starting to know who he is. Freaking guy's just, he's very clean talking about stuff. Like, as far as, like, he explains it really well.
Yeah.
He's clear spoken. So, like, John's talking, I'm listening, and what he gave us guidance with the food plots this year, and then what we did, some of his stuff at camp, incredible. Like, we are getting better deer hitting, the quality of the food that's on the plots this year up at camp from the feedback we got from him or the guidance we got from him is fantastic. So I'd say that. I like, for sure, like listening to, trying to think of what you didn't mention, that the Working Class Bow Hunter, I've been on to those guys quite a bit recently.
Yeah.
They're just a fun-loving group of guys. They have a good time, but I just enjoy listening to them. There's a lot of good education that come from that. And I think just the last podcast that you didn't mention, that's a local or a PA base, but young group of guys that are coming up that are really hustling, be the Antler Up podcast. I think they're working really hard and they're trying to grow their podcast. And it's funny, there's between PA and Michigan, there's just a pile of podcasts, but everybody's trying to find their find their path and whatnot. So I give those guys their hustling down there, Jeremy and Dimitri. So I appreciate those guys have been supportive of us and tried to be supportive of them. So there's a lot of good stuff out there. So there's the big mainstream podcasts are good, but I think there's a lot of like secondary podcasts out there that are important to check out.
The other two from Pennsylvania being East Meets West.
Yeah, Bo. Yep.
And not to be confused with East to West.
Yeah.
But Bo Martonic, and then the other one is Truth from the Stand.
Yep.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, I listened, and Bo did a podcast with Truth from the Stand.
Yeah,
with
Clint
Clint.
and Bo are friends. I've heard them together before. But
Yeah.
they both are good Pennsylvania-based podcasts, and they both hunt out of state a lot too. So they won't just bore you to death on mountain hunting Pennsylvania. They're pretty experienced guys too that get around. So
yeah, that Clint likes to have. He does quite a bit with that Greg Litzinger.
Yeah.
And with Johnny Stewart and with Dan Infalt. And Johnny Stewart, he's a freaking piece of work to listen to too. So there's just a PA. I like listening to stuff out of PA because it's relative to here. It's close to home.
And we also hunt.
We hunt there. So you can draw the lines of commonality, So just some ideas for people to listen to. I think there's some good content out there. The Big E podcast we didn't mention, Meat Eater and some of those, like there's some great, like they put out some great stuff too. But when it comes to things that really apply to me here at home, as I'm focusing on deer hunting right now, I want to know stuff that is applying directly to my situation. So those are some of the ones that I think you and I listen to a lot of the same stuff. So
for sure.
Anything else?
We also listen to a lot of the same political podcasts.
Yes, we do.
We probably don't need to go through that list.
We don't listen. We're already an hour 15, and we got a week and a half until this country figures out what direction we're going. So, yeah, I think people probably understand where we're both sitting.
Yeah,
it's
probably not hard to figure out.
No, this is wild. It's absolutely wild, and but I'm glad there's a lot of. I've been saying this to Sarah. I am a Trump fan. That he's a no bullshit guy, and he does have some flaws. He's not, I'm not voting for it's not a popularity contest. I want somebody who's going to lead us in the direction, and there's a lot of good stuff that's happened, I feel.
Yeah.
But, that could be all the channel I'm listening to is all positive on that end, but that's the way I feel. But there's some great people coming up through the ranks, I think, in politics. The guys like Dan Crenshaw, Rogan had that other guy. His name's, is it Hunt was his last name? Wesley Hunt, maybe?
Yeah, I didn't catch that one yet.
I mean, just some quality people coming up through politics right now. and on both sides, I think, so I'm optimistic that, this isn't going to be a forever problem where we've got just these, great grandfathers out there that are running for president and the top of the office. It's like, let's get some new young blood in there who, that are retired military people that have traveled the world and seen it all and understand what's going on in the big picture. And there's a lot of smart people out there. Like, we can do in a lot of ways better than the sort of stuff we've been watching on television over the last,
So would you call it the President of the United States or the President of the United States?
President of the United States.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure how to say
Come
that.
on, man. Come on, man.
He cut out the man last night, though.
Come on.
He just said, come on. Somebody must have.
200,000 more people are going to die. Come on, man. Fucking unbelievable, Dallas. I have no issue with I love everybody, okay?
Me too.
But politics has just gotten so freaking messy. It's just awful, and it's just turned people against each other, and it's awful. I don't care what you believe and what you think. I think that everybody should care to protect their rights, their family, their safety, and their right to everything this country stands for: liberty, pursuit of happiness. Everybody should have opportunity regardless of your.
You know the thing.
What thing? Oh, that's another.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's another Bidenism.
Is it? The thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's unfortunate that they've made us pick sides. Is kind of what it's come down to.
Yeah.
And the media is, if Trump was right about nothing else, he had it right on fake news.
Yeah.
It's still going on, and at least, if nothing else, he's made half of the country see that the news is fake.
Yeah.
And that you can't just turn on your cable news and be a trusted, reliable source and just take every word. And it's on both sides, too.
It's on both sides, yeah.
But at least
I've tuned out
at least
that,
if you understand it, though, you're halfway there.
Yep, you're halfway there. But you have to be looking at it. And I think it's been good because Sarah and I have had a lot of conversations because she leans more Democrat than Republican, at least the people she follows and the channels she listens to. And I'm on the opposite side, so it's very interesting to have those discussions because she sees totally different things than I see, and then we compare, and then it's like, well, where is it? It's somewhere in the middle. That's always the answer.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in the middle. So that's where I hope this country goes in the future, is somewhere down the middle, because that's where just about everybody is.
Yeah.
That's the reality of things.
Yeah.
There's crazy on the right, there's crazy on the left. Most people are good people, and they're in the middle. That's my take on all of it.
Agreed.
Just get through in the next 4 years, because it's going to be whatever. Dallas. If Trump wins, which I think he is, if he wins, I think it's just going to be. I think it's going to be another 4 years of a shit show, and I don't know what it would be on the other side. If Biden wins, I don't know. I don't know what that'll look like. If all the stuff that they're talking about, if it'll actually happen or not. Were we in the same position when, Biden and Obama were in there? It was the same, probably similar agenda. I don't know. I have no idea. We'll find out. Maybe.
I don't want to go any further down this rabbit hole.
No, me neither.
It's outside of my expertise.
Yeah. I think it's been hurting our hunting podcast downloads because I think people are so freaking tuned in on politics right now that we're getting the same volume of downloads, but I think it'd be growing more if we didn't have this circus going on the other side. But
it is important.
It's very important.
But it's probably not for us to say.
No. Just go vote. Whatever you think, just go vote. It's the only control you have at this point, because Nipple Rings Andy's got us freaking buckled down. All right, we got to go.
All right.
Dang. I think Sarah's going to yell at us because it's after bedtime. See you, Dallas. Thanks for coming down and having a couple cervezas.
Good night, Billy.
Shoot the big one this week, all right?
I'll try.
Fade him.
All right. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion. If you did, make sure to give us a subscribe, a like, and a comment, or a rating and a comment on the whatever podcast app you're listening on. That'd be greatly appreciated and would help us quite a bit to help this podcast continue to grow. We do have some hats for sale on our website. We're in limited supply, so get them before they're gone. Go to pertneroutdoors.com to check them out and get yours today, so you can help show your pride in being a Pertnear Pro staffer. We also have discount codes you guys can use on some websites when you're shopping here this fall. We've got a discount with Basemap now, so that will get you a discount on your yearly subscription to get you 20% off. So use Pertnear20 over on basemap.com to get that. Just so you know, you cannot use that promo code on the Apple Play Store, the Apple App Store, or the Google Play Store. So you got to do that through basemap.com. So check that out. We also have a discount code with Austin over at Genesis 3D Printing. If you're buying any mobile 3D printed mobile hunting gear, any bow hangers or accessories for your sticks or saddle setup, he's got some really cool stuff. So check him out over at Genesis 3D Printing. Use promo code PERTNEAR to get you 10% off there. We are part of the Antler Ice team this year. We're helping them a little bit and using some of their product. So head over to, if you're going to get any rutting, if you're going to get any scent, whether it be doe and heat or buck scent for your mock scrapes or doing any scent drags, anything like that, use these guys. It's some local made stuff and frozen and guaranteed fresh. So check that stuff out. If you use our code and you order online, if you use our code AIPRO75, that will get you 10% off your order. And then lastly, we've got all the affiliate links set up over through our link tree is the easiest way to use that. So if you're on Instagram or on Facebook, use the link tree in our bio and click on any of the store links. You've got Cabela's, Camel Fire, Black Ovis. We've got Sitka gear on there, I believe. Trying to think of a few others. Mountain Ops. There's a handful of other companies that we've got on there. So any purchases you make through those websites using our links, we'll get a little commission, and it will help pay for the stuff because it ain't free, folks. So anything that you do to help us there is greatly appreciated. Thanks again. Have a great week. Good luck out there, and keep feeding them.